Hey everyone, it's Mr. Wild194. I'm here with another H.P. Lovecraft story review. This one's a short story, about 3.5 pages long, called Polaris, and it's inside of this big old complete fiction thing that looks like a wild berry Pop-Tart. I keep saying that, I'm always going to say that because it looks like one. Anyway, so, Polaris. I remember reading this way back in the day on my original Mr. Wild194 channel here on YouTube, and I hated it then and I don't like it now either. It's not that I hate it this time around, I just think it's really, really bad. Not like the previous review I did for A Reminiscence of Dr. Samuel Johnson, also from Lovecraft. That was one of the worst things I've ever read from him, if not the worst I've ever read from him. Not being a horror story, but being more of a wannabe, jokey mimic of some other writer. It sucked. It was terrible. I'll stand by it. I don't care what anybody says. This particular story is a kind of a more fantasy type of thing. Apparently the moon comes out while our narrator is in bed, and he sees a city revealed underneath the moon. And it's like when he goes to sleep, it's almost like an Avatar situation, like his consciousness ends up in a body out there somewhere on that city, and he immediately gets sucked into whatever's going on there amongst that political situation, amongst that community situation. Let me be honest with you, I really don't care enough to find out, because it was so bad. But it's not even like it's poorly written. That's definitely not the case with Lovecraft. He typically writes everything in a very well done way. If the execution's a little iffy, can typically be my problem. I think here it's that the concept is bad, not the execution. And usually a lot of the time for me, it's the other way around with Lovecraft. Usually I love the concept, I think it's a very strong concept, with a weird execution that doesn't work for me most of the time. Well, with here it's like, there's not really enough story to be maintained here, and Lovecraft tried his best to do something different with this. I don't like it. I think it kind of sucks. I think it's a very bland storyline. The writing is good, I guess, to an extent, but again, the concept is what's weak here. It feels like there's not enough gas in this tank. Does that make sense? I think that's really what the problem is here. And it kind of is a confusing story, too. For me, whatever reason, I don't know why, maybe it's just this story, but for me, on this story, the transition going from one paragraph to another and going in and out of his consciousness, again, in that very weird Avatar way, is something that I don't know if I was able to keep up with that well. I'm not the smartest man on the planet, but as I read this, I found myself being like, you know, that wasn't very smooth in transition. It just kind of, bam, happens. And if you're not paying attention fully, because you're bored and it sucks, and you read A Reminiscence of Dr. Samuel Johnson right before it, like I did, you're probably going to feel the same way I feel. Your brain's going to be mush. You're probably just going to not really focus as you read it. What I have to say is Polaris is not the worst thing he's ever written, but it's probably one of them, from my personal opinion, because of the weak concept. I don't really have anything else to say about it. Again, the writing is fine. It's your typical Lovecraft style. A little bit too more coded, if you will, in the sense of like C-O-D-E-D, as in like it feels like he's writing in code, and it feels like I don't have a clue what this alien man is saying. It just comes across that way for me. Anyway, when it comes to Polaris in this complete fiction collection, I'm not a fan of it. I think it's a very weak story. Well written, but it's poor, in my opinion. If I had to rate it on a 5-star basis, I'd give it like a 2 out of 5 stars. It's not even an average story for me. It's just very, very weak in a lot of ways. And it's too confusing in a weird way. For, like, again, a 3.5 page story, it shouldn't be that confusing. But again, I did read A Reminiscence of Dr. Samuel Johnson right before, and my brain was mush. So I have an excuse. Get over it. I'll probably go back to reading what I was reading before I do any more Lovecraft reviews, just because my brain is mush now. And again, I'll probably read like maybe 3 or 4 videos, or review 3 or 4 videos worth of Lovecraft videos every time I finish up a book or two, just to try to, you know, get some content out there, get some Lovecraft stories reviewed out there. There's a lot of them in here, so I got a long way to go. Anyway, what are your thoughts on Polaris? Did you love this? Did you hate it? Put all your thoughts and comments down below. I would love to hear what you guys, especially you Lovecraft folks like my friend Austin, have to say down in the comment section down below. Because I'm not thrilled with the guy a lot of the time. I typically have a decent time with this stuff, as I've said over and over again. This particular one is a great example of why I don't. Sometimes. Not always, but sometimes. Anyway, what are your thoughts? 2 out of 5 stars for me. Put them down below, guys. Thank you for watching. All. God bless you, and goodbye.